Oh yeah, it's the end of the year. Our first ever Jerk of the Year. Now last year we did Turk of the Year. We'll be doing that again this year, but this is our first Jerk of the Year award, so the winner should be awfully proud. We have three candidates, but first I'd like to mention an honorable mention. That's Wayne LaPierre. After the Newtown shootings, he came out representing the NRA and said the answer is more guns, and that there should be no laws passed that would ban or in any way limit guns, including the number of bullets that a magazine holds. The only thing he said that needs to be done is bring in more guns to schools to keep the students safe. I believe the reason the students got shot in Newtown was because there were guns there. Now, if there were no guns in the school, no one would have gotten shot, but Wayne LaPierre did not agree. And then he had this famous quote where he said, the only thing that can stop a bad guy with a gun is a good guy with a gun. Now, presumably Nancy Lanza, the mother of Adam Lanza, was a good guy with a gun. She could not stop the bad guy with a gun, who was her son. She got shot first. In fact, she got shot with her own guns, which seemed to defeat the point of Wayne LaPierre, but he seemed undeterred. But he didn't make our top three. Coming in at number 3 for Jerk of the Year this year, George Zimmerman. Now, look, George Zimmerman, obviously, shooting Trayvon Martin was, in our opinion, something that was unnecessary and had terrible results. What we blamed really in the beginning was the justice system that didn't even bother to do a toxicology report on him or a criminal background check and simply let him go. Now that of course changed after there was a spotlight put on it. He went through a trial. But that's not why we called George Zimmerman one of the candidates for Jerk of the Year. It's his post-verdict actions that have really called into question what kind of person he is. And even during and before the trial, what he said. But first, after the trial, if you remember, he went to go visit the manufacturers of the Kel-Tec 9mm pistol that he used to shoot Trayvon Martin in the chest and kill him. Now, he even took a picture smiling with one of the people who runs that factory. It seemed to kind of rub in the face of the Martin family, ha ha, this is the gun that I used to kill your son. In fact, it was so atrocious that even a spokesman for his attorney said, we certainly would not have advised him to go to the factory that made the gun that he used to shoot Trayvon Martin through the heart. That was not part of our public relations plan, to say the least. And what really put it over the top for me, and I can list 28 other things that Zimmerman did that was despicable, including domestic violence dispute he had with his wife and then his new girlfriend, and the list goes on, right, of his run-ins with the law and him basically saying to everybody, here, look at me, I'd like to be back in the spotlight. But to me, the most atrocious thing he did was what he said in this Hannity interview.
Is there anything you regret? Do you regret getting out of the car to follow Trayvon that night?
No, sir.
Do you regret that you had a gun that night?
No, sir.
Do you feel you wouldn't be here for this interview if you didn't have that gun?
No, sir.
You feel you would not be here?
I feel that it was all God's plan, and for me to second guess it or judge it.
Is there anything you might do differently in retrospect, now that time has passed a little bit?
No, sir.
Nothing he would have done differently. You shot a 17-year-old kid in the chest. He was unarmed. Here's something you could have done differently. Gone home that night. And then he wouldn't have been shot. You wouldn't have done anything differently? It was God's plan? I mean, if you're a Christian, my guess is that's deeply offensive to you that God had to plan to have that kid get killed for no damn reason that night. There would have been no conflict whatsoever. But apparently he thinks that was God's plan. If it was my kid, I'd be tempted to think that God had a new plan. And then I'd say, well, what could I do? It was God's plan. No regrets, he said. How could you have no regrets? It's one thing to say, hey, I can't believe how it went down that day, and I feel sick about it, but I had to do what I had to do because at that point we're in the middle of a fight and I feared for my life. It's another thing to say, I don't have any regrets at all. I'm glad that kid is dead. It was part of God's plan. Sorry, I wouldn't have done anything differently. Man, it's a wonder he didn't win. Okay, number 2. And a person for Jerk of the Year, and the runner-up, James Clapper. And it's because the Director of National Intelligence It's a much larger figure than George Zimmerman. George Zimmerman on a personal level might be disgusting, but Clapper has worldwide implications. Now, he was asked in Congress whether they do wide-scale spying on Americans. And you remember this famous answer.
Does the NSA collect any type of data at all on millions or hundreds of millions of Americans?
No, sir.
It does not.
Not wittingly. There are cases where they could inadvertently, perhaps, collect, but not wittingly.
I love that video because he's the director of national intelligence and he can't lie to save his life. He's like, oh, not wittingly. Oh, do I have to look at you in the eye? Oh my God, do we collect information on Americans? Kind of, not really. What a horrible, horrible liar. And by the way, by violating the U.S. Constitution and spying on all Americans, assuming we're all possibly guilty, that's a pretty good running for Jerk of the Year. And if all that wasn't clear enough, he basically admitted, yeah, he did lie.
I have great respect for Senator Wyden. I thought, though, in retrospect, I was asked, when are you going to stop beating your wife kind of question, which is meaning not answerable necessarily by a simple yes or no. So I responded in what I thought was the most truthful or least untruthful manner by saying no.
You can't beat that quote. Least untruthful manner. And that's your director of national intelligence. There's another word for that. It's called perjury. And it's illegal. And of course, if there was any justice in America, they should be prosecuting James Clapper, not Edward Snowden. It's not how it's gone down. Turns out you can lie to Congress all you like as long as you're in a position of power. So how are you going to beat James Clapper and George Zimmerman? Well, there is one guy who can do it. Ted Cruz. Now, of course, he was the guy who pushed the Republican Party to shut down the government. He did his 21-hour fake filibuster, which wasn't even actually a real filibuster. He did it for politics, for his own personal gain. It didn't even help the Republican Party, but he didn't give a damn. It helped his rankings among conservative Republicans. Those are the primary voters he's trying to win over in 2016. So he's willing to burn down the House, willing to burn down his own party, just so that he could get ahead. And of course, these were some of his antics.
I rise today in an effort to speak for 26 million Texans and for 300 million Americans. All across this country, Americans are suffering because of Obamacare. That Sam I am, that Sam I am. I do not like that Sam I am. Do you like green eggs and ham? I do not like them, Sam I am. I do not like green eggs and ham. You go to the 1940s. Nazi Germany.
My position in this fight was we should defund it. Now, that's the essence of a compromise. On the other side, what have the Democrats compromised on? Nothing. Zero.
The pleas from the American people, I tell you, in Texas, are deafening.
You cannot defeat the Germans.
Say, I like green eggs and ham. I do. I like them, Sam I am. But I'll tell you the difference with green eggs and ham is when Americans tried it, they discovered they did not like green eggs and ham, and they did not like Obamacare either. They did not like Obamacare in a box with a fox, in a house, or with a mouse. As I wondered if at some point we were going to see a tall gentleman in a mechanical breathing apparatus come forward and say in a deep voice, "Mike Lee, I am your father."
Well, the guy with the deep voice happens to be Ted Cruz. His father believes that he is the anointed one. Apparently, Ted Cruz might also believe that. He looks like he's going to run for president even though he was born in Canada. He can't stop the anointed one. He's decided what's right and wrong. And just today he said that he didn't shut the government down. The Republican Party didn't shut it down. It was the Democrats who did it because they wouldn't agree to defund their own health care plan. Wow, that's shocking. And of course, not only did they do a government shutdown, but they also threatened not to raise the debt ceiling, which would have been a worldwide economic catastrophe. For bringing us to that brink of that catastrophe, congratulations, Ted Cruz. You are our first ever Jerk of the Year.